Professional wrestling is full of staged rivalries and scripted punches, but behind the curtain, the heat can be just as real, and sometimes far messier. Few wrestlers walked into a locker room and left with as many bruised egos as Ivan Putsky, a man whose nickname, the Polish Hammer, wasn't just a gimmick, it was a warning. Whether it was in the territorial circuits or under the bright lights of the WWF, Putski had a knack for ruffling feathers, creating short-lived but fiery bursts of backstage animosity that left his peers shaking their heads. Professional pride, perceived slights, and Putski's force-of-nature personality sparked real conflict wherever he went. Some wrestlers quickly learned to keep their distance, while others paid the price for a single misstep. From locker room confrontations to in-ring frustrations, the Polish Hammer's presence guaranteed tension and occasionally fireworks. Coming up, we'll break down the individuals who found themselves in the Polish Hammer's crosshairs, survived his explosive temper, and lived to tell the tale of chaos, bruised egos, and locker room drama. Ivan Putsky wasn't just a wrestler, he was a walking wrecking ball with a heart full of fire and biceps that seemed to have their own zip code. Standing out in the WWF during the late 1970s and early 1980s, Putsky quickly earned a reputation for being a powerhouse in the ring and an unpredictable force backstage. His nickname, the Polish Hammer, wasn't ironic. He had the strength to back it up and the temperament to match, making even seasoned veterans wary of crossing him. Putsky's matches were brutal displays of raw power, but it was his locker room presence that really set him apart. Colleagues described him as intense, sometimes volatile, and utterly unapologetic about his ego. He had no patience for perceived disrespect, or anyone trying to outshine him without putting in the work. Stories abound of him confronting wrestlers over minor slights, whether it was being stooged off in a match, being underestimated in a push, or simply stepping into his personal space. Despite the occasional flare-ups, Putsky was respected because he earned it. He trained hard, wrestled harder, and wasn't afraid to tell someone they were out of line, loudly and often physically. Fellow wrestlers knew that one wrong move could trigger a confrontation, sometimes leaving egos bruised before the night was over. By the time he left the territory scene, Ivan Putsky had left a trail of both awe and tension. His peers knew that in the presence of the Polish Hammer, the ring wasn't the only place where collisions happened. The locker room was equally hazardous. Larry Sharp had wrestled plenty of hot-headed opponents, but nothing prepared him for a collision with Ivan Putsky backstage and in the ring. The infamous 1980 showdown at Shea wasn't just a spectacle for the fans, it was a pressure cooker of egos, territorial pride, and short fuses. Putsky, already known for his explosive personality, didn't take kindly to Sharp allegedly stooging him off to Antonio Inoki during the event. In other words, Sharp told Inoki how Putsky might perform or behave, an act that, in Putsky's eyes, was akin to public betrayal. The result? A heated confrontation that sent tension ricocheting across the locker room. Fellow wrestlers reportedly had to step in to prevent Putsky from turning the feud into a full-blown brawl before the night even began. Sharp later recalled the incident with a mix of disbelief and dark humor, noting that Putsky's temper could flare faster than a pyrotechnics team on steroids. "One minute he's talking, the next you're ducking," Sharp quipped in a retrospective interview. But this wasn't just about ego, it was about respect. Putsky expected it, demanded it, and when he felt it was withheld, even in what might seem like a minor professional interaction, he lashed out. Sharp learned the hard way that some wrestlers thrive on intimidation, and Putsky was the Polish Hammer in both name and behavior. By the end of the night, the dust settled, but the story became locker room lore. Sharp's cautionary tale, never underestimate Putsky, never assume a backstage favor goes unnoticed, and absolutely never stooge him off in front of a legend like Inoki. One mistake, and you're the star of the wrong kind of highlight reel. Greg Valentine was a tough, no-nonsense worker who prided himself on a physical style, but when he crossed paths with Ivan Putsky, the physicality spilled over into genuine hostility. The tension stemmed from matches where Valentine accused Putsky of being too stiff, laying in strikes harder than necessary, and not protecting his opponent in the ring. Putsky, on the other hand, saw it as part of the job and considered Valentine's complaints as weakness. The heat built up during a string of bouts in the early 1980s. Valentine claimed in later interviews that Putsky had a habit of ignoring calls in the ring, throwing legitimate shots and cutting sequences short if he wasn't in the mood. For a meticulous worker like Valentine, that was an insult. According to wrestlers on the same cards, the locker room arguments were loud enough to stop conversations, with Putsky dismissing Valentine's issues and telling him he needed to hit back harder. This wasn't a one-off spat. Their matches became increasingly tense, with both men trying to assert dominance physically. Valentine, known for his long matches that wore down opponents, found himself in a situation where Putski simply powered through, refusing to sell in ways Valentine expected. That broke the unwritten rule of mutual cooperation, turning what should have been a safe contest into a contest of pride. By the end of their working relationship, neither man had much to say about the other in public, but insiders knew the respect was never there. Valentine saw Putski as reckless. Putski saw Valentine as soft. In a business built on cooperation, the two of them had the chemistry of a bad booking. There because the promoter wanted it, not because they could work together. Ivan Putsky's reputation as the Polish power wasn't just built on his wrestling ability. It was forged by a personality too strong to ignore, but disciplined enough to command respect. In a business filled with larger-than-life egos, Putski managed to clash with only a handful of peers. And that says as much about his professionalism as it does about his ferocity. He was intense in the ring, often working hard and sometimes stiff, but he knew when to cooperate and when to assert himself. This balance meant that while some wrestlers tested him, most learned quickly that Putski's pride was not worth antagonizing. His approach to wrestling was straightforward: perform with commitment, respect the craft, and deliver a believable match. Deviations, missteps, or showboating from others could spark friction, but these were the exceptions rather than the rule. Putski's ability to stand his ground while maintaining respect allowed him to navigate locker rooms filled with volatile personalities without racking up grudges. The 3 documented instances of heat against Larry Sharp, Greg Valentine, and a few brief short-term conflicts are notable precisely because they were rare. Unlike many contemporaries, Putski didn't seek drama or petty disputes. He demanded professionalism, and when it was met, he respected his peers. His few clashes stemmed from genuine conflicts over match pacing, stiffness, or perceived disrespect, not personal vendettas. That restraint demonstrates a wrestler who could be fierce without being universally combative. Ultimately, Putski's limited list of hated wrestlers reflects a man who was tough, principled, and largely respected. Only 3 individuals ever drew his ire, a fact that underlines both the intensity of those moments and the measured control with which Putski conducted himself. In the unpredictable chaos of professional wrestling, that's an impressive record. Putski didn't just wrestle, he collided with people. His style was forceful, his pride immovable, and his patience limited. In an industry built on cooperation, he thrived on control, and that made him both respected and resented. Whether in the locker room or under the lights, he demanded things his way, and anyone stepping out of line found out quickly that Putski's tolerance was measured in seconds. He left behind bruises, grudges, and a legacy that proves you can be both a fan favorite and a nightmare to work with, sometimes in the very same night. If you enjoyed hearing about the Polish Hammer's real-life grudges, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and stick around. There's more wrestling heat coming your way.